All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to your first lesson in math analysis. So we're going to do a little bit of Algebra 1 review, and we're going to go back to talking about relations and functions and what that means. And so you should have a separate piece of paper out for this lesson so that you can copy down the vocabulary and that you can work out the examples. If I ask you to pause, that means work out the example before you continue the video. That way you know if you know it or if you're just being able to watch it. So we don't want to just watch. We want to be active learners, okay? So the first vocabulary word is a relation. So that shows a relationship between the set of ordered pairs x comma y. So the set of all x values is considered to be your domain, and the set of all y values is considered to be your range. Now, if you feel like I'm going too fast and that it's too hard to write down all the words, remember you can always pause the video, write everything down, and then press play again, and then you'll be all caught up. Okay? So again, the set of all x values is the domain, and the set of all y values is the range. So a very special type of relationship is a function, and that's a relation where every x value has exactly one y value. So those of you thinking of that vertical line test, that is determining if something is a function because your pen drifting from left to right, that's representing x values. And as long as your pen or pencil only touches one point at a time, then for every x value, there is exactly one y value. Don't know why I can't pause, but here we go. All right, so if we take a look, it's giving us a set of ordered pairs. So each one of these is an x comma y, and it's asking us to state the domain, to state the range, and then afterwards we want to determine, do we have a function, writing yes or no. So taking a look at question number 1. So again, you could pause the video and copy down the question, but I'm going to work this one out together with you. It just might be good to take a moment to copy this down. So if we take a look at this, do you see that we have x values of -1, +3, -2, and +3? So the issue that we run into is when we look at the x value of +3, that's getting repeated. We don't want to repeat that when we talk about the set of all x values. So when we talk about domain, and then we're going to take a look at these values. My smallest number in the domain is -2. The next smallest is -1, and then the largest is +3. And again, we're not going to repeat that 3. Okay? When we look at the range, that's the set of all y values. So we've got a 2, a 10, a 20, and an 11. So there are no repeats, so we don't have to worry about that. So the smallest number is 2, and the next comes 10, then 11, and then 20. And so the issue that we run into for the function is for the x value of 3, I get a y value of 10, but then over here, I also get a y value of an 11. So when it asks about the function, the answer is no, this is not a function. So take a moment to pause the video and see if you can answer question number 2. So looking at question number 2, for my domain, I'll shorten that to just D. I've got a 0, a 13, a 2, and a 3. So my smallest value is 2. My smallest value is 0, and then 2, and then 3, and then 13. So remember, everybody makes mistakes, right? So then my range, I've got a 2, a 6, a 2, and a 1. So I am going to start with my smallest value of 1. I do have a repeat of 2s, so I'm only going to put one of those down, and then I'm going to say 6. So the reason why we don't repeat is we're just saying this is the set that you have to choose from. Whether you choose the number 2 once or you choose it twice, it's available to you. So then the question is this a function? And this kind of trips people up sometimes because this 2 right here makes you think that it might not be a function. And so if we take a look, and actually I'm just going to sketch it. I was going to put some graph paper up, but I don't think we need that. So we've got the 0.02, we got the 0.136, and I'm just going to sketch. And then we've got 2, 2, and then we have 3, 1, something like that. So even though I have two y values that are the same, do you see that as I drag my pen from left to right, I'm only hitting one point at a time. So the answer to the last question is yes, it is a function. So with this, I want you to pause the video. I want you to copy down the next two questions, find the domain, find the range, and determine if it's a function. To save a little bit of time, I went ahead and wrote down the work for domain and range. So again, you can pause the video and double check, do you have the right numbers and do you have them in the right order? And when we take a look to see if it's a function, for question 3, 1, 2, and 3, I don't have any x repeats, so yes, this is a function. And taking a look at number 4, do you see that we have a 3 here for x value and a 3 here for an x value? So that means that there are two y values for that one x value of x is equal to 3, so this is not a function. So in the 4 previous examples that we had, these were particular points and they weren't connected to each other. They were just points out there on the plane. So I wanted to show you an example of talking about domain and range where you do have a continuous function. So if we take a look at the graph for A, this is going to be a line. And do you see that it's continuous? All the points connect. And so the question is, what is the domain? So typically what we ask is, are there any x values excluded from this? So no matter what x value I pick along that x axis, I will find a point on the y to give me one y value. So that means that my domain is going to be the set of all real numbers. Same is true as I look along the y-axis. I just lost my cursor. If I look along the y-axis, there isn't going to be any y value that doesn't give me a point on the line, so the range will also be the set of all real numbers. So taking a look at B, as I look along the x-axis, there will always be a point along the graph that's going to give me a y value. So my domain is going to be the set of all real numbers. But when I take a look at the range, that's coming along this y-axis to see if I have a point on the line. And that's true for all the y values above. And it doesn't matter that I have 2 points or 1 point. But once I go below 0, do you see that for these y values, there is no point on the graph that I can reach horizontally? So that means my y values start at 0 and go up from there. And so it's only going to be y values that are greater than or equal to 0, or what the book called non-negative numbers. All right, so again, we're going to be taking notes here. So we've got linear equations. They can be written in the form of y equals mx plus b. So m represents the slope of the line, and b represents the y-intercept. So the slope is your rise over run, and your y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. If the slope is defined, meaning it's 0 or any other real number, then the graph is a function. And instead of calling it y equals mx plus b, we can call it f of x, meaning a function in terms of x. So we have f of x is equal to mx plus b. We could call it h of x, g of x. Sometimes when people talk about profit, they talk about p of x, that type of thing. So you can name your function with any letter. But once you see that letter with the parentheses and x, then you know that it's telling you it is a function. So function notation replaces that y value with f of x to let us know that the relation is a function. So take a moment to pause the video and go ahead and copy down question number 6. I'll give you a second. So if you take a look at number 6, it's saying the function in terms of x is 4x cubed plus 6x squared plus 3x. So what this is saying here is saying, what would my y value be? Because remember, y and f of x are interchangeable. What would my y value be when x is equal to -2? So when I see f of -2, I'm going to say that that's going to be 4 times, and instead of writing x, we're going to say -2 to the third power, plus 6 times -2 to the second power, and plus 3 times -2. I shouldn't run into that space, but it's all right. So then when I do that, now we can plug this into a scientific calculator, but just make sure that you're using the parentheses when you do that so that the negative is included in what you're cubing. So when you do that, you should have 4 times, and the -2 cubed should be -8. and then we have plus 6 times, and again, put the parentheses around it before you square it. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong answer. So with parentheses, we get positive 4. The incorrect answer would have been negative 4. And then finally, we have 3 times negative 2. Okay, so then 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. 6 times 4 is 24. And 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And now you can do this in any order that you like, as long as you change this to plus negative 6. So I can add the negatives together and say negative 38 plus 24, which allows me to recognize that that's going to be negative 14. Or you could have plugged it straight into your calculator and figured it out on your own. So again, take a moment to pause the video and copy down question number 8. And question number 8 is one of our favorite ones, because this is essentially saying, this is the function in terms of x. What if I make it in terms of t? So all that means is in this equation, wherever I see x, I'm just going to replace it with a t value, because it's essentially saying x is equal to t. So we're going to say that that's 9 times t to the 9th minus 4 times t to the 4th plus 3 times t minus 2, and we are actually finished. And there's no way to get a final numerical value because we don't know what t is equal to. It could be time, it could be anything. So again, take a moment to pause the video and copy down question number 9. And so what this one is saying is x is equal to g plus 1. So if my function of x is this equation, then what is that function when x is equal to g plus 1? So f of g plus 1 is equal to, and we get g plus 1 squared minus 2 times g plus 1, and then plus 1. So this is a nice review of FOIL and our order of operations. So I would love it if you could take another moment to pause the video and see if you can simplify this correctly. And then once you're done and you think you have a final answer, take a look at how I do my work and see if we get the same answer. So g plus 1 quantity squared really means g plus 1 times itself. So that square, because of the addition in the middle, you cannot distribute that exponent. So then once we do that, remember you could do that box method that they might have taught you in Algebra 1 or Algebra 2, where you have g and plus 1 and then g and plus 1. And you can just use it like a multiplication table. So you've got g times g is g squared, and then g times 1 is g, and then 1 times g is g, and then 1 times 1 is 1, and then you can add all those together. Or you could do what I typically do, which is FOIL, which stands for first, outer, inner, and last. And so if we do that, that means our first terms are g and g, which gives us g squared. Our outer numbers are g and 1, so that's going to be 1 times g. Our inners are 1 and g, so that's going to be 1 times g, and then our last is plus 1. And then here, make sure that when you distribute, that you distribute the negative as well as the 2. So negative 2 times g is negative 2g. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. And then this one is all by his little lonesome, so he's just going to stay out here as plus 1. So then looking to simplify, I have a g squared. I've got 2 g's here. And then I've got this negative 2g, and if I want to, I could call this plus a negative, and negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, right? So now I have a positive 2g and a negative 2g, so they cancel. And I have a positive 1 and a negative 1, so they cancel. And so we can say that f of g plus 1 is just going to be g squared. And so that would be the simplified version of f of g plus 1. So with that, I'm going to show you what your homework is going to be, and I want to explain it. So it's going to be on page 10 if you have your actual book at home. I will post a PDF of this as well. And then it's 18 through 45 with this 3N on there. So I want to make sure you understand that when we talk about that, that's going to start with question 18. And then I'm going to go to the next third one. So the next third one would be 21. And the next third one would be 24, and then 27, etc., until you reach 45. If you get there and you did 44 or 46, then somewhere along the way you had a problem.